Hey y'all, welcome to the press conference of Stories on Sunset. I am Sareth Ney, one the performer performing there. Um, where should I begin? Um, Stories on Sunset first started off as an idea that I posted on Facebook with my friends, and we were like, um, asked them, what if I had concert stories that didn't make the articles? And they were like, that'd be a cool idea. And this was years ago, so it's just like it'd be pretty neat to do that because I wish I could include all these cool stuff that happened outside of the show into the article, but I wanted to focus it on all the musicians and stuff. And so that's what I did. I Some of the stories were just outrageous, and I so wish I could have put them in there, but all my articles were like 400 words, and I just wanted to keep it at 200 minutes or 200, 200 2 minutes long, and people can read the 400 words. Some read faster, some read slower. But it was fun dedicating all those articles to all my pals that were on Facebook and writing those little poems and such. um, Fast forward to now or last year, it was during quarantine, and I was like, man, I wish I had something to do because everything was locked down and it was boring. And so I thought, well, why don't I just work on a one person slash superhero show and see what how that'll come about. And I didn't know where to put Stories on Sunset didn't have a name back then. It was just something random, and I really wanted to perform it in Orlando this one time, like a couple years ago. But back then, I didn't have a name for it, and I was going to plan it on performing it at the other bar, and there was like a room divider set up, and like my superhero alter ego was ready to go, and but the host was late, and I promoted it on the radio. But the good thing about that one was I had a really good set. I remember that day that everyone bombed. So this is pretty much the third act that would be my stand up routine in Stories on Sunset. It's a three-act monologue thing. First two acts are storytelling. Third act is story stand up. Um, and so I ended up doing. The host said, if you're doing bad or bombing, you get 5 minutes, but if you're killing it or destroying the room, you get seven. And so I ended up getting 7 minutes, and I remembered that night, like the host thought I was officially part of the Wu Tang Clan, which I usually wear Wu Tang stuff, and so that's the confusion there. And he introduced me that way, the guest host, anyways. And I remember that night everyone like bombed in front of me, and I'm like, oh crap, like I gotta tell jokes and see what happens. And I hate gloating, but that night I did really really well, and so much so that I sent it to a bunch of bookers for my first official tour, and I ended up getting 14 shows on 10 dates back to back, and it was awesome. Um, all right, so that's the stand-up portion, how that came about, their origin story, and then I'm all over the place with this, and I apologize. I should have had my notes or something or bullets. Uh, but yeah, in quarantine, I decided to make these videos on YouTube, and it was called Stories on Sunset. It was SOS. It was like uh, uh, the whole Save Our Stages hashtag thing that was going around, but we had the same initials, but it was totally different. I reached out to him, but we could never I never got a response back. So I thought, well, I'll just put the links to all those venues in the description box below and let the world know on those videos what my intentions were. And they were all closed down. Like they were my favorite venues, like the Key Club, the Roxy, the Rainbow, the Troubadour, even though they're on Santa Monica Boulevard, and the Palladium, the Amoeba, just all of those venues, the Vipe Room. I could go on and on with all those cool venues that are along the Sunset Strip. House of Blues, and this was like these stories were like 9 years ago, and the Key Club and the House of Blues and Amoeba are no longer on Sunset, of course, because people like to build apartments on those lots and buy out old venues and historic ones. And that's one of the other reasons why it's called Stories on Sunset, like apartment stories. So it's a good and bad, a yin and yang thing when it comes to this. And I have so many interesting stories from each venue of those on the Sunset Strip. And it was just pretty, like I said, really neat, of all different genres too. And I remember going to a Spine Shank concert at the Whiskey A Go Go, and how this guy was like just standing in the middle of the pit and just like wasn't even bothered, wasn't even moved. People were bumping into him. He just shoved people off. And I remember my chest was against the stage because there's no barricade. I was trying to take photos, and like my chest bone was just being pushed against the stage so hard, and the stage is pretty high too, so that was pretty nuts. It hurt so bad, so I stepped away and took photos from the pillar that was in there. But there's more stories that are there, and I can't wait to perform them live for the first time in Orlando Fringe. It's the 30th annual one, and man, it was really hard to get that show off the ground for like the live setting. I remembered my first attempt at the whole thing to bring it live was at my homeroom that I performed stand up in, called the Tinnernog Irish Pub in Daytona Beach. And so I remembered hearing this lady in the very beginning. She was like, I haven't had a relationship in 10 years, and I didn't want to be the first one to break that curse. So I just went up there and did my thing. She made her way with her friend to the back of the venue at the bar because it was in quarantine and we were socially distancing and stuff. And I performed in front of like the usual people that go and do the stand up, and some of the staff. But she kept on heckling because she was drunk, and I just powered through it all, and I tried to like calm her down, and it was live streamed, and I was trying to raise funds for, like, at the time the fires in Cambodia were happening, and or the fires in Colorado were happening, and the floods in Cambodia were happening, and I was trying my best to like live stream it, raise funds for it, and my pal in Pueblo ended up buying all like four of the tickets, and they were like $5 each, and so that was an interesting thing. And once I left, the staff and the usuals that come out to the comedy shows just grilled that lady, and they were probably like, "You don't want to see this, Sareth," and I'm like, "All right, I'll go home and tell me about it later." And they just grilled her, and she hasn't been around since, so that was great. Um, my second attempt was going to a horror themed coffee shop in the middle of Florida, um, and and my friend had a drag show in the beginning, and I had my Stories on Sunset for the second show. It was like a double feature. Uh, and after her drag show, like the whole energy got sucked out of the room. Uh, and so everyone left. But the only person that wanted to stay around for the show was the barista that was working that night. And she was by herself. And again, I was trying to raise funds for the Colorado fires and the flooding in Cambodia. And their internet kept on cutting out. And so we just canceled it altogether. And so that never happened. Uh, but I knew that I had 60 minutes because of even though I was being drunk heckled by that one lady. What else? There's there's that one time in Jacksonville that I tried to perform it at, and it was at a pub in downtown, and I pretty much posted flyers all over the city and wrote out news releases and everything like that. And it was a rainy day, and people in Florida don't like to go to places when it like rains. Um, and there was no parking whatsoever. And so it was an early show, and we tried to put my show, in front of the drag show this time, and it was too early. So that show never happened, and it got me thinking that maybe this Stories on Sunset wasn't meant for bars and cafes and pubs and whatnot. It's more for like theaters and stuff. And I got my first attempt. I've always wanted to perform at Fringe. Like I saw friends perform stand up there and stuff, and so I didn't know what it was like, and so they 100% uncensored stuff, so it was fantastic. And I submitted it, paid the production fees with my $600 stimulus check, what was left of it, and it covered all of the expenses, which is fantastic. But social distancing is causing the whole thing to be like a uh, limited amount of people that can be at the shows. So luckily, I got 31 people, 31 tickets available. Tickets are $12 each, and you have to buy a button too. So the description box is below with all my social media info and all the ticket for information and all that stuff. But I'm so excited because it's like finally this was meant to be like for Stories on Sunset, and this is the best way to world premiere a festival of sorts. And so I can't wait wait to see that to happen. And I did a teaser show last night on the 19th of April, and it was pretty neat. We had tech rehearsals for an indoor and outdoor stage, and then we did our thing for like the actual thing, which was at 9 o'clock, and we got to perform indoor and outdoor. And I have this song about self-love, and we had like 2 minutes to just tease them with it, and I sang it all 4 times, and the crowd laughed when they needed to, which is fantastic because I warned them ahead of time. Like Act 3 is stand up. It's stand up with a lot of dirty material without any curse words. And if you went over time, they would play songs to just mute your mic, and it was awesome to see like that happening. I remembered hearing just songs, and I'm like, man, I'm sure glad they didn't do that to me. That everyone laughed, and they were awesome stages. And I hoped people buy tickets to the show because it's pretty interesting. I mean, the first act of the whole storytelling thing is how I broke into Hollywood just by reading a book by my favorite director, which is Clive Barker, and he's responsible for Hellraiser and Candyman and stuff, and all the other cool horror flicks and books and all that stuff. And so I'll be sharing some things that I can share about the whole experience. And then the second act is me turning into a superhero and being a journalist. And the tagline is the storyteller of this superhero, the Sultan of the Sunset Strip. I earned the nickname because I wore these pants that have all these Wu-Tang logos on them, like from each member of the Wu-Tang Clan, and I would wear them because they were cargo pants, and like one pocket was for my pens, the other pockets were for my journal and stuff, and I wrote all my notes in those journals, and I have like 18 written and published, but from like local bands all the way to like internationally known bands, and it took me back to like 50 years of music in 2 years, which is absolutely nuts. Like I felt like I was in a time machine, and it was like my time machine was broken. But I got to see the Doors without Jim Morrison and UFO. Those are like the oldest bands I got to cover, which is they were around in the '60s, and I got to cover bands from the '70s, '80s, '90s, 2000s. It was just musicians, and I can't wait to like tell the whole like select stories, as I mentioned earlier, like just random interesting stuff. Um, and it was cool to find my voice in journalism. Um, a style that I feel comfortable with. I call it uh, if you take Chicago style and you add it to AP style and you multiply it with Gonzo style and you get Tiger style. And I call it Tiger style because it's in honor of the Wu-Tang Clan, because I got to meet like half of them and they were all really cool dudes. That's why I always wear Wu-Tang stuff. And which reminds me, tonight, 420, Method Man and Redman are performing on Versus at 8 o'clock Eastern, and I can't wait to share that story at Stories on Sunset. It was, in fact, I'll just share it today, I guess, right now, so I can burn time because I have another meeting to interview fringe producers and such in less than an hour. Um, but this is a pretty interesting story because I went to the House of Blues summer of 2009, and I went there to go see the early show of Method Man, Redman, and Ghostface Killer, and I was first in line because like I wasn't a journalist then, um, and I was first in line as I said, and RZA walks down the ramp and Ghostface Killer walks down the ramp, and they both greet me, and on like different times, of course, before the shows even started. And I was so cheesed. I was like, I know who you guys are, and they thought I was working for the House of Blues, and the House of Blues thought I was working for the Wu-Tang Clan. So that was a big mix-up there. I remember getting to where they check for tickets and stuff, and like frisk you and stuff for weapons, and it was awesome. Um, and so I went to the merch table to buy more shirts because I can't get enough of concert shirts ever since 2003 was my first show, or maybe 2002. It was a rap concert, Eminem and a bunch of other folks. Papa Roach was on the bill. They were the only rock band. But anywho, um, I bought merch, and Method Man's people were like, we haven't sold that shirt in years, and it had holes in it, and it's faded, and the letters and stuff were all cracked. And I'm like, yep. And I had pointed out that these misspelled Albuquerque on the back, and and they all laughed again because they remembered that. And let's see, so um, they go, would you like to stay for the second show? And I'm like, I can't afford it. I just paid for the first show. They're like, no worries, we'll get you in, we'll get you a bracelet. And I'm like, cool. So I ended up getting a bracelet for the second show. It was a VIP bracelet. I got to go to the top of the balcony this time because it was only accessible to those with the bracelet. And uh, in between each show, they had to clear people out, and so the new people can come in. And the merch men were like, we talked outside, one of them, and they're like, and sure enough, they gave me my bracelet, and I walked up to the balcony just to be in a much more comfortable setting because those Method Man and Redman shows can get bonkers. It's like a metal show uh, environment at a hip hop show is pretty neat. Um, let's see here. And so I waited for my car. I thanked the merchman for Method Man again for the bracelet. I almost forgot. I saw Cat Williams there too. He offered me some Dom Perignon, and I declined. And he was throwing money off the balcony. It was nuts. That's a part of me. That's what I thought, which led me to my comedy phase. Um, and so uh, I met this guy named Armel. He's a jizzes artist. We were waiting for our cars, and he said, "We haven't sold that shirt in years." So I was like, "All right, not again." So he goes, "What are you doing out here? You don't sound like you're from California." I'm like, "I'm not. I'm from Colorado. I'm out here doing an internship with Clive Barker. He did Hellraiser and Candyman and stuff." And he's like, "Cool." He goes, "Let's link up. I'm Jizz's artist." I'm like, smoke and mirror, just Los Angeles, and we traded numbers. My car came up out, and we kept in touch as promised over the weekend. Then I hear Riz's voice on the background, and I'm like, "This is nuts!" And so I invited them up to the studio. They couldn't make it on a Wednesday, so we ended up meeting up on a Friday, and I went to the Tool concert the day after. Clive and Riza didn't get to meet. I just ended up spending 3 hours with Riza and Armel and the company and their entourage, I guess. That was awesome. And I got to take Riz on a tour, and we talked about comic books and video games and horror movies and stuff. It was gnarly. Um, let's see here. Um, and so that's how that circles back to the Method Red Man and Red Man versus Battle later tonight, which I'm tuning in and staying in because I don't smoke weed, but I enjoy Method Man and Red Man's music. They're just, they put on the great shows, and they look like they don't age. It must be the marijuana. So, um, but yeah, tickets are $10 each, plus a button, or $12 each, and a button. 31 tickets per show. All of the proceeds are donating. I'm donating to the music, some of the musicians and comedians of Florida. So I'm doing this all for them since it really didn't cost me anything to produce because of the stimulus package, and it was a perfect timing for everything. And dates are in May. All of them are in my link tree. You can just click the second box and they'll take you to all the 4 dates. I have an afternoon show, a late show, like 2 in the evening, and I'm pretty excited. Um, so, but yeah, that's pretty much the whole Q&A session of it all. And I really can't wait to sing my self-love song again for the people in the audience. Last night was just, it was long, but it was worth it. Like from the rehearsals to the 2 rehearsals and the 2 performances in front of a live audience. That's what I live for. And I'm hoping to get merch made to Sling. That'll be donated to. Just doing this for the musicians and the comedians that really took me in, and music that touched my soul, tugged on my heartstrings, and the comedians that gave me an opportunity to shine on their stages. The Florida scene is awesome. And a lot of people say bad things about Florida, but on a recent well-known podcast, I won't say, but you can look it up. Um, uh, it was just, this scene is awesome if you're tapped into it, and I recommend this state over others, especially if you live in the same town that I do and the travel isn't as bad. But yeah, so happy 420 out there. Um, Hopefully, I'll have a live one at my tech rehearsal. For those that are prefer the live press conference and Q&As and stuff. Um, we'll see how we can work that out. Um, for the approved press that's happening at the Fringe, and I'm really happy about the Fringe. Like, it's a dream come true. It's like at the Lowndes Shakespeare Center. I think that's how you pronounce it. And for me to sing "Be Dirty" on those stages last night was pretty awesome. And uh, for everyone to laugh at the song was awesome. Because I remember the people that went before me had covers of Linkin Park and Radiohead, and it was just uh, the host was like, "You should. I'm glad you're in this thing," and like it was just the love that was in that room was amazing. And to perform on other stages other than the blue stage was pretty rad. I don't know what the name of this stage is, but the stages that I performed at, but totally awesome and worth it. and hopefully we see you in May. And you get to see the 3 acts of my one person slash superhero show. I don't want to say man because of all the pronouns out there, and I don't want to offend anybody. But if you love horror, uh, journalism, cosplay, and all that stuff, this show's for you. And I can't wait to perform stand up there and be dirty and not say any curse words. It should be fun. So with that being said, I'm gonna sign off. Hopefully that gives you an inside look um, on the show. And for those that do have questions, I'll open those now. If not, you can just comment on later in this thing, and I'll just check my notifications later, and I'll just comment below on those and reply to you, just the nice ones anyways. Hopefully you dug this Q&A session, this press conference, these announcements. Um, I have to get ready for my other interview that's coming up here and prepare myself. And I'll definitely see you all in May at the Fringe. So be well, everyone. Take care, and we will see you there. Peace.